Good evening, everyone. I want to share with you a Dvar Torah, and my prayer is that this Dvar Torah should be a merit for all those people who are suffering in Houston. It's a very trying time, but Baruch Hashem, it's an amazing way, something to see about how the actors of the community, people getting together and helping others. So that should itself be a big zchus for everyone, and we should be able to come back together. So with that, I'll just share with you an interesting ra'ayah, an interesting idea that the Chazal talk about in this week's Parsha. It starts off, the beginning of this Parsha is packed with halachos. Packed. Many, it's the most condensed area of halachos, almost. I mean, there are a few Parshas like this that are just packed, and this is one of them. So it starts off with three halachos, seemingly random. The first halacha is a halacha of what we call Eishes Yifastoya. An Eishes Yifastoya is a woman who is taken in captivity, a person who goes out to battle, and he sees a beautiful woman and he desires her, so he takes her and as a wife, and the laws of that and what the requirements are. That's one halacha. And then it goes on to interesting halacha regarding the laws of Nagel. It's talking about the dinim of the bechor, and it says that if there's two children, one's a bechor from somebody that his wife that he doesn't like, and another wife that he does, he cannot precede the bechor from his second wife if the actual true bechor is from his first wife. And then it talks about afterwards the Parsha of Ben Sera and Moira, the rebellious son, the son that rebels, and what happens to him. He rebels, he's a glutton, and all he does wants to eat, and he uses up his parents' funds, and there's a special din that the parents bring him to the Beis Din, they give him malchus, and in the end, if he continues, so then he gets misa skila. Very, very powerful idea. And the question is, what's the connection of all of these halachas? So it teaches that there's a very so Rashi brings down that there's a hemshech, that there's a continuation in the text. And first of all, it talks about that there's a isha sifas Torah, a person has it's mutter, is allowed for a person who's going to battle. He has a special desire, and because of that, it's so hard to control. So Chazal tell us, the Torah is only speaking against the evil inclination, and it basically gave us an allowance that he was allowed to take this woman under certain circumstances. Basically, it's a way of sort of minimizing the extent of the chait, but nevertheless, it's permitted, it's permissible. There's a din fastoya, and then that means that he's going to take the fastoya. The Rashi explains, in the end he's going to hate that woman, because he's the fact that he took her because of his desire turns into hatred. That's the human nature. You follow your desire in the first place, and then it turns out that you end up hating her, and that's how there's a bechor ben asnua. That's how there's a firstborn from the wife that you do not like, that you despise. And from there, having a child from that union turns into a Ben Sera Moira, a rebellious son. And this is what Chazal are telling us. It's a very, very important message. Sometimes there are many things that are technically permissible. The Torah allows it. But the Torah is also saying that, and even so, that it's permitted. Even though you are allowed to do that, nevertheless, it's a bad idea. And that's what's happening over here. It's permissible, but there's going to be repercussions. And that's really what people don't realize. People think that a person does an avera, does a mitzvah. They think that, okay, I will be rewarded, I'll be punished, depending on what I did. That's fine. But there is what we call the actual results of the action that you did. And the results are automatic. That's how it happens. So that's really, if you think about it, the hemshech makes sense. When a person marries a woman just because of his desire for her, and he knows it's not a good shidduch, she's a not Jewish woman, You know it's not going to end well. Of course, Seifel is nicer. Okay, if you look at the story with Amnon and Tamar, he desired her so much, he couldn't control himself. May have been even mutter for him. But it turns right afterwards, he hated her. Why? Because you take out your hating of yourself on the person who was the object of what brought you down to that Avera. That's what happened with Amnon and Tamar. And then, what do you think is going to happen from a union where there's discord between the parents? Of course, it's not going to produce good children, and then it leads to the next thing of a Ben Sarah or a rebellious son. So it just shows us the importance of that every action that we do. Even if it's technically permitted, there's a bigger picture that we have to look at. And what's going to come out from that. And that's the message of this week's, at least the beginning of this week's Parsha. Good evening.